Good evening from New York. I'm Charles Blow in for Chris Hayes. In the last half hour, President Biden just formally announced that the United States has killed the head of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. The terrorist was killed in a targeted CIA drone strike in Kabul, Afghanistan on Saturday night.
This operation is a clear demonstration that we will, we can, and will always make good on the solemn pledge. My administration will continue to vigilantly monitor and address threats from al-Qaeda, no matter where they emanate from. As Commander-in-Chief, it is my solemn responsibility to make America safe in a dangerous world. The United States did not seek this war against terror. It came to us, and we answered with the same principles and resolve that have shaped us for generation upon generation. To protect the innocent, defend liberty, and we keep the light of freedom burning, a beacon for the rest of the entire world.
This announcement today was rather unexpected, but quite huge in significance. And to understand just how pivotal al-Zawahiri was to al-Qaeda, it is worth looking at some of his history. He was born into a prominent Egyptian family, but in the 1960s, he joined up with the Muslim Brotherhood and was eventually arrested as part of a plot to overthrow the government in the early 1980s. And it is the torture that he experienced in that prison that fully radicalized the young man into the terrorist leader that we know today. He recounted being beaten, electrocuted, and even terrorized by wild dogs. And he spoke out forcefully back in 1982 about the torture he and his fellow radicals experienced.
Where is Dr. Muharib, who died as a result of negligence to his treatment? As a result of 3 days of severe torture. Where is Hazem Zaki, the one who is included in this case, but unfortunately he is not here. Do you know why? Because they delivered his body to his family, because he died under torture.
Al-Zawahiri was eventually released from prison, and he pressed his followers to embrace more violent and brutal attacks back in Egypt, including an especially horrific massacre at the Luxor ruins, which left more than 60 people dead, including a 5-year-old girl. The young terrorist first met Osama bin Laden when he was a Mujahideen fighter waging war against the Soviets in Afghanistan. The two men would quickly become close. If you recognize al-Zawahiri, it is likely as the right-hand man always sitting next to bin Laden in photographs, as if to show the world how close he was to the head of al-Qaeda. He ingratiated himself to bin Laden, becoming his closest confidant as well as his personal physician. Back in 2011, when bin Laden was killed in a U.S. raid, al-Zawahiri took over as a de facto leader of al-Qaeda, but he never achieved the notoriety of his predecessor. Al-Zawahiri was more intellectual and less charismatic than the reviled terrorists who came before him, and he was plagued by ill health for much of his tenure in charge of the terrorist group. For a while, it was unclear if he was still in charge or even still alive. Nevertheless, al-Zawahiri spent a decade as the United States' most wanted terrorist, with a bounty of $25 million for information leading to his arrest, the largest bounty the U.S. has ever offered for a terrorist, which reflects how eager the government was to get him out of power. Helena Cooper is the Pentagon correspondent for the New York Times, and Lawrence Wright is a staff writer at the New Yorker who has written about Ayman al-Zawahiri, both in the magazine and his book, Looming Tower. They both join me now. Helena, I want to start with you. What do we know about this strike and how they found al-Zawahiri?
Hi, Charles. Thanks for having me. A senior White House official briefed reporters just shortly before President Biden spoke and told us that several months ago, the United States intel sources started developing an intelligence that showed that Zawahiri's family, his wife, his daughter, and his daughter's children, so his grandchildren, had relocated from Pakistan into this house, a safe house in Kabul, that one government official tells me was the house is believed to be belong to a member of the Haqqani network. The U.S. continued to follow this, and they started developing what they call a pattern of life. They did the same thing, as you'll recall, with Osama bin Laden when they first started to suspect that he was in that house in Abbottabad, Pakistan. There was some surprise that Zawahiri was now in Kabul. He had been believed to be in Pakistan, but a few weeks after they found out that the wife and his daughter were there, they became increasingly certain that the Al-Qaeda leader was there as well. And they've been developing this intelligence since then. They said that they saw him several times on the balcony where he was eventually struck by these two Hellfire missiles. Apparently, intel officials and senior national security officials talked to President Biden about this, and President Biden made the decision a week ago to go in that they would attempt to get Zawahiri with using these two Hellfire missiles in an unmanned drone strike. The administration says that there were no civilian casualties. That's something that they often say, though, so we'll wait to see if there are any if anything develops from there. And there's right now, there's some interesting back and forth that's going on between the Biden administration and the Taliban government in Afghanistan, because the Taliban is pretty upset about this strike. They claim that this is a violation of the U.S. terms, the agreement to withdraw from Afghanistan. But the Biden administration says that that agreement said that the Taliban wouldn't let Afghanistan become a safe haven for terrorists. And there you have Zawahiri staying right there in the capital city in a house in Kabul. Right. So this is going to be something that I think will be litigated for a bit.